Who am I? I'm Victoria Lessing, and this is my sign name. I'm deaf. I'm also a mother, a daughter, a boss, among many other roles. Are your parents deaf? No? Both my parents can hear. I was born hearing. Then at the age of 2, I became deaf. When I was born, my parents had no idea about sign language. So once they knew I was deaf, they had no idea what to do and were lost. And over time, they did their research on how to communicate with their deaf child. I remember my father telling me he was determined to find out information, particularly about the deaf culture and sign language. He met with deaf adults and learnt sign language from them, which enabled him to communicate effectively with me when I was little. That's an interesting question. What does music mean to you? Let me think. Music for deaf people. How do I even answer that question? To be honest, I can't be bothered with music. My father's a musician. He plays the keyboard and he sings as well. My whole life I've watched him play, and he's always said that music is awesome, that it has a wonderful rhythm and beats that we can hear and feel. But I don't feel the same enthusiasm as him about music. Beautiful flowing New Zealand Sign Language is music to me because it's very visible with our eyes, and we can feel the vibrations on the floor and feel the positive vibes. Getting that through my ears, through listening, is just not for me. When I watch the art of poetry, sign singing and storytelling through New Zealand Sign Language, it's so beautiful and always leaves such an impact on me. When you became a mother for the first time, were you worried? Well, when I was pregnant, I found that there was a lack of accessible information on topics such as healthy eating, breastfeeding, and many other things. So I was in the dark, basically. I had to take the initiative and find the information myself. For example, looking at overseas resources, like what was available in the US, and the UK, and Australia. I did manage. My husband and I have 2 beautiful children, and it's all good. We enjoy the journey of learning that parenthood gives all of us. I'm sure that many other parents also learn a lot on this journey. So what's the advantage of being a deaf parent? I can think of a few examples. One being that if my children are screaming, it doesn't bother me at all. You know, I'm not fazed by it. They can be running around, they can be noisy, and I just carry on as per normal. You know, if they've been provided with what they need, food, activities, socialising, company, love, conversations, then it doesn't matter that they're noisy. I say this because I often hear other parents grumble about their noisy children. And for me, that's one advantage of being deaf when you have children. I would actually love to have more children, 3, 4, even maybe 5, because the noise isn't a problem for me. I think my 2 children are lucky to have deaf parents. I think they're able to have their minds expanded by being involved in another world. If they didn't know New Zealand Sign Language, it would be likely they'd only focus on learning one language, like English or another foreign language. Because my children have deaf parents, they learn sign language, English, and other languages. Their minds are broadened by this exposure to 2 or more languages. How do you tell your children off? With magic. With an expressive face, I sign sharply and my children know I mean it. It's all to do with the level of facial expression, so while I'm signing stop or finish, I'd start with a firm expression on my face and then change it to a more stern one if they continued not to listen to my request. The children can easily see the tone, and also my signing in that situation would be a lot more sharper. And more quickly too, for emphasis, which the children understand and respect. Sometimes they ignore my instructions, so I use my voice and tell them off this way with a good yell at them. My voice can be very loud apparently, with the house shaking. It depends on the situation really, what strategy I will use at the time. What's hard about being deaf? Well, it isn't always easy for us to get specialised equipment. There's a lack of information clarity within the community about who provides what exactly. For example, do we contact one particular organisation or is it another organisation responsible for providing? The information is not clear. But I have networks, so I'm able to find out. Sometimes some specialist equipment is not funded by the government or organisations. Deaf people have to lobby for this to be covered. To give you an example, baby alarms are covered as they're seen as high priority for funding to cover, but doorbell alerts aren't, nor are smoke alarms. I'm seeing inconsistency in New Zealand as to what equipment is provided for or funded and what isn't, due to having no legislation in place for that sort of thing that would enable deaf people to have access to a wide range of specialist equipment that is available. How do strangers react when they meet you? Actually, their reactions vary, as all people are different, and it also depends on when and where we meet them. Most of the time, my experience over the years, strangers mostly stare at me with a confused look. Deaf? You're using New Zealand Sign Language? It's interesting to think back to when I used to emphasise to strangers the fact that I'm deaf by gesturing, I'm deaf. Now I think, why? Why do we need to emphasise that we're deaf? Now I don't need to do that anymore. I just go straight to the point of the meeting or the conversation by signing, and it makes them think about the situation differently and they realise they can't sign. And that gives me a sense of equality. In the past, they would often ask, "Oh, you're deaf. Can you read my lips?" Which I find irrelevant. It's like asking them, "Can you read my hands?" Thank you. Bye.